The wind howled like a wounded animal as the first flakes of snow drifted down, settling on the ashes of what had once been their home. 9-year-old Lily stood trembling beside her little brother Ethan, clutching a smoke-stained pillow to her chest. Their faces were streaked with soot, their eyes wide with the kind of fear children should never know. Behind them, the small wooden house that had held their laughter, memories, and their mother's warm embrace was nothing more than a hissing skeleton of charred beams. With the cold creeping deeper into their bones and darkness falling fast, the two helpless children found themselves staring into the void of an unforgiving winter night, not knowing how they would survive. If you believe in kindness, hope, and second chances, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. Lily felt Ethan grip her hand as the snow thickened, swirling around them like a cruel reminder that nature would show no mercy. Their mother was still unconscious in the ambulance, being rushed to the hospital after smoke inhalation. The firefighters had done everything they could, but the blaze had grown too fast. The children had barely escaped through a shattered window thanks to a neighbor who heard their screams. Now, wrapped in a thin blanket, exhausted and shivering, they faced a night without shelter, food, or certainty. Their world, the only one they had ever known, had collapsed in a single terrifying hour. Just when the cold felt unbearable and the children's hope was fading, the rumble of engines pierced the silence. The ground trembled under the weight of heavy motorcycles rolling in from the snowy road. One by one, massive bikes came into view, their headlights cutting through the swirling flakes. To the frightened kids, the figures that dismounted looked rough, intimidating, even dangerous. Leather vests glinted with patches, arms were covered in tattoos, boots crunched into the snow with deliberate weight. Ethan instinctively pulled Lily closer. They had heard stories about bikers, none of them comforting, but the man who stepped forward knelt down, his voice gentle despite his rugged appearance. His blue eyes softened when he saw the children's soot-streaked faces, the trembling lips, the silent pleas hiding behind tear-filled eyes. He rested a hand on Lily's shoulder, not touching to comfort, just enough to show he was there. His name was Mason, a longtime member of the Hells Angels chapter that had been doing a charity ride nearby when they noticed the flames rising into the sky. Behind him, more bikers removed their jackets, draping them over the children. Thick, warm leather instantly shielded them from the bitter wind. Another biker hurried toward the fire crew offering help, while others began unloading bags from their bikes. Blankets, bottled water, food packets, anything they could find. The children watched in disbelief as these men, who looked like they belonged to a world of danger and rebellion, worked with the urgency and compassion of guardian angels. Mason looked at the collapsing ruins of their home and knew these kids couldn't spend even a minute longer standing in the cold. With a gentle nod to his brothers, he scooped Ethan up into his arms while another biker lifted Lily and wrapped her tighter in a thick jacket. The roaring engine started again, but this time the sound was no longer frightening. It was the sound of rescue, of hope rising in the darkest hour. They rode slowly through the snowfall, keeping the children warm between them. Mason brought them to the clubhouse in town, a place the kids had never imagined entering. But inside, the atmosphere surprised them. A warm fire crackled in the hearth, soft lights glowed, there were couches, blankets, hot chocolate, and a long wooden table where the bikers shared meals like a big, messy family. Someone set 2 mugs of steaming cocoa in front of the children, topped with marshmallows. Another biker wrapped them in soft wool blankets that smelled faintly of leather and pine. Slowly the shaking in their hands eased. Slowly they began to breathe again. As the night went on, Mason made sure the children were fed, warm and safe. He contacted the hospital, checked on their mother's condition, and reassured the kids that she was alive and stable. But even with that relief, a bigger fear loomed. They had nowhere to go, nothing left to return to. Everything they owned had been swallowed by the fire. No home, no clothes, no certainty. The next morning, while the snow continued falling in heavy sheets, the Hells Angels members gathered in the main hall. They had a decision to make, and it didn't take long. They decided to help rebuild the family's home, no matter how long it took, no matter how much it cost. These children, who had lost everything, would not face the cold world alone. The bikers reached into their own pockets, called friends, contacted local builders, and even arranged fundraisers. The clubhouse buzzed with activity as they worked out logistics, each man determined to give Lily, Ethan, and their mother a second chance at life. Days turned into weeks, and the angels worked tirelessly in freezing conditions. They cleared the burnt remains, laid new foundations, hammered new beams into place, and raised walls with calloused hands. The kids watched the transformation with wide eyes, hardly believing what they were witnessing, strangers who looked nothing like heroes becoming the very definition of one. When their mother was finally discharged from the hospital, still weak but recovering, Mason personally drove her to see the progress. Tears filled her eyes as she saw the new home rising where the ashes had once smoldered. She had lost everything, but here she stood, surrounded by people who owed her nothing, and yet gave her everything. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these powerful, true-inspired stories alive. Before you go, write in the comments, "Kindness lives in unexpected places." It helps more people discover this message.